Wo kilti haziram zapti. Lum kisses divam mahavik sleeve. Wo kilti haziram zapti. Lum kisses divam mahavik sleeve. Wo kilti haziram zapti. As some of you may know, I am a member in Unicult, and the way that it was arranged, a person's a member for life, and there's some terms according to that. So I thought I'd say a little something about what I'm doing there. And there's a difference between an Arcturian and a Noctulian. An Arcturian, that's sort of like a circus master, right? And a Noctulian is a dark one. And I don't just mean goth or something like that, although nothing wrong with being goth. I mean that an Arcturian is prone to being a sociopath or a schizophrenic because of its reference to others. And it's also prone to conduct disorder and mood disorders. And in the case of Unicole Unicron, either faking or misdiagnosing herself with various things, you know, to score points popularly, right? But we can tell the difference between some of these things and the actual disorders themselves. Mood disorders can be distinguished between gender differences or cultural differences, personality stuff. That can be distinguished between the actual disorder. Just like drug use syndromes can be distinguished thereof. In Unicult, things are very much along the lines of lust, but not so much as a means, as a whatever sex and drugs you feel like, and then it's prone to addiction. And certainly people have their emotions and feelings and all that, and that's not quite the same thing as an addiction. And it's also not the same thing as behavior. A Noctulian would take responsibility for their behavior. And they would go beyond their own personal drives as well. And that's part of what is meant by a Noctulian. And it's, you know, they would be driven towards actual real-world spirituality rather than just, okay, there's, you know, I attend an online meeting every once in a while, or I do a little ritual instead of living the life. And one of the things that this has gotten into in Unicult is Unicole Unicron and people with her promoting crime of one sort or another, or perversion of one sort or another. And that is not as rebellious as you think it might be. It's what can be called ultra mundane to think that you're, you know, oh, you think you're not all special and stuff, but you're letting others decide for you your morality, your ethics, your sense of value, whether you're trying to be different or not. It's, you know, you're letting that decide it. And what, you're going to waste your life because you've been caught or, you know, with what is called that, without any real purpose other than it's, you know, what others have said that it's going to be. And we do find in multiple ways, particularly in the mention of drama, that Unicole Unicron was mentioned on a show about psychic vampires for a very good reason. is that she feeds personally off the drama. There's been more than directing that sort of thing with disregard to others or specifically to do them harm. There's been more to it than that. But, you know, I've talked to people from, I mean, communicated with people from, you know, Colorado, from Washington, from California. Certain of these abusive behaviors in order to feed off of people isn't, you know, they haven't come to a stop. And I wouldn't expect them to have come to a stop in Georgia as well. If there hasn't been what you would call real victims, there's going to be something eventually, right? And Unicult very specifically has encouraged a victim mentality. And, oh, sure, something happens. But this identifying and seeking to be oppressed, this seeking to feel offended and stuff like this, when people don't really, you know, even mean it half the time. So you don't even have to do anything for these people to be all like, oh, you're working magic against me. And it's like, well, yeah, everybody, you know, everybody who watches my channel, that is something that happens is that, and if it works for you or against you, that is one of the things, it's totally up to you how you're going to turn so many of those things. And, you know, in lines with that, they've talked about, you know, and I've talked before, was it Fiona Horde or whatever, disguised Satanism. You know, just like the Satanic Temple people, they act out this stuff, and it's like, well, but they say, oh, well, that's not really the thing. And Wicca generally has turned towards oh yeah, they're going to mention demons, but they're not going to, and they're going to mention witchcraft, but they're going to deny what it means. They're going to deny the power thereof. In Unicult, very specifically, Lilith, Astarte, Baphomet, and others have been mentioned, but they, you know, again, they don't really appear to understand the power thereof. And I mean, what does this spirit of uni mean? What is it really intended to mean in the first place? Is it Davadam, Davo, you know, the chief devil of devils, also known as Angra Ma'eneu, you know, the universal spirit, as it's called. But, you know, the destructive spirit, is that what's being meant there? Today is a very important anniversary, right? Because Friday, the 13th of October, 1307, I think, Philip IV of France ordered the end of the Knights Templar. So they transmuted into something else, right? But one of the things that with that is, what does it represent to some of us? Is that it represents the going after of the real thing. The banking crusader, economic abuser system. It's addressing that. Well, in that case, it really wasn't, because it was one group of wealthy people kind of, he wanted to cancel his own debt. But, it said they referred to Baphomet and, Shub-Niggurath, and some other things can be used to describe the Sophia, and some other things can be used to describe the Baphomet idea. But we can look at this from the perspective of changing society, changing this conservative, this secular, on the other hand, order that wants to control the rest of us. Because it's not even about the type of the system. It's not about one nation against another nation. It's not about one race or political party or any of those other associations. You can use whatever means at one's disposal You can, there can, one might be under a dictatorship. One might be under corporatism. One might be under communism or fascism. But, the thing is, we can add up and change society. We can be adversarial to the despiritualized order, to the ultra-conservative, unthinking order of whatever type of that is. It's not about one side or the other, because a lot of people say, well, I'm liberal and this. It's like, well, if you're letting all your beliefs, again, are the people that feel that they got to let go of things just so they can let go of values and behaviors of one sort of, or beliefs or whatever of one sort or another. That's certainly not the thing at all. And something else has been declared as well today, and people don't know what it means. But in that regard, we can certainly, as they do in the CAM churches, we can say prayers for, these three groups that are trying to deal with these, what we call the real war. They want their freedom. They want to be, who they are and have their own, but it's of global import. It really is the overall thing once you get past all these labels and types. And certainly I can use these modes in groups like Unicult and that sort of stuff for other intentions, and whether it works for them or against them, that's totally up to them, right?